Hi guys, Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create tortoise shell canes. So I'm going to show you at least two variations. I'm going to show you how to create a whimsical one, which is most certainly not realistic, and I'm going to show you how to create a realistic shell. So let's get started. We're going to start with the realistic one, which is the one that needs the colour recipes. Let me just move you forward just a touch. There we go. Right. So you'll have mixed up your colour recipes, and then you want to run them out on the thinnest setting of your pasta machine. So I've got those all sitting out. I also have a sheet of gold, burnt umber, 18 karat gold, and raw sienna. Those also I will be using. Okay. Then you want to take a plug of gold. Just roll that out like so. And that is what we're going to start with. Okay, so I'm going to start with my first colour, which is this nice black one. I'll show you that in a second. Just running that out. And this is a nice colour. And if you get little bits on your clay, that's fine. It doesn't actually matter. It's just going to add to the rustic feel of this cane. This cane is a very lenient cane. And also, don't worry about getting a nice even layer if they're slightly different. That's also really good. Okay, then I'm going to move on to my colour. Let's see, which colour should I go with? Let's go with this one. Run that out again. There we go. Okay. And you're just going to take this and you're just going to roll it. And if you want a slightly thicker layer, just roll a little bit more, and I just like to rip. I don't even like to worry about getting the right. Don't use my blade to trim it, you don't need to do that. And just alternate through all your colours until you have basically used them all up and got a lot of different rings. You need quite a few rings in this, they need to be fairly fine. And just continue until you've used them all up, and I'll show you how it looks once I've finished a few rings. Okay, so I've done a few lines. Just want to show you what it looks like so far. And here we are. So you can see that all of the lines are pretty uneven. They've got ripples along them. They're not supposed to look even. Some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner. Some of them are thicker in some areas, some are thinner in other areas. So you can see it's really quite uneven, and that is exactly what we are looking for. We're not looking for nice, symmetrical, even canes here. We're looking for something nice and organic like this. So it's a great cane for those of you who don't want to stress about whether or not your lines are absolutely perfect, or if you have to trim it perfectly. This is a really nice, easy, organic cane where you just roll it, rip it, and then move on to the next one. So have fun with it. Okay, and here we go. Got a nice big piece of clay here. So now what we're going to do is we need to wrap the outside with this black. That is always the last step. You always need to finish off with a bit of the black. And that's just how the cane works. And it doesn't. And what I like to do now is I generally will finish up that black, so I'll just continue wrapping it around until it's finished. Okay, and then you want to reduce this cane. And just start in the middle, pressing. And we're going to reduce it like you would any round cane, but what you want to do is you just want to get it started carefully. So that you don't get too much waste along the edges. And just stop pulling along these edges to get that black to reduce out along with the rest of the clay. And just continue slowly reducing it, and you can see that it's starting to widen. And you just want to try and get that to reduce down nice and evenly. And what we want to do is we want to cut out, let's see, need about 13 pieces for the center of our shell, and then we need quite a few more pieces, probably about 20, but a lot smaller, to make out the outer ring of our shell. So I'll show you how to cut that out, but about I'd say about 2/3 of our cane needs to go towards the inner shell, and then 1/3 needs to go towards the outer shell, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute, but first we need to reduce it. Okay, so this is what I would call the inner shell. So we need 5 down the middle and 4 along either side, and that would make 13. You need 13 pieces for that, and that will be 2/3 of our cane. And then along the outside you have about, you cut the circle here in half, and then you bring it around the outside, and that is about 1/3 of our cane. So you just want to reduce it enough so that you can cut out 13 pieces from 2/3 of your cane. Alright, so it's been reduced down quite a bit. So just try to get your cane nice and even now. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to trim off these ends. You're always going to have a bit of waste, because the stuff's going to bow in. There, so you can see what that looks like. And I generally use this for faux wood grain. I will show you that at some point in the video after we've done the other turtle showcase. But here basically is what our individual shell pieces will look like. Okay, so now I want to just cut this into 3, or just measure it out so that we know the parts. Okay, I'm just going to trim that there. Put this to the side, that's going to form our outer ring. And this I want to reduce a little bit more so that it will be easier to cut out our 13 parts. And that should not take too long. Okay, and now one part is going to, which is going to form the center of our shell. That needs to be a bit longer than the others, so I generally cut it about that big, and then the rest of the pieces I will cut about that big, and this I will smush down to the same length so you can see it's a bit bigger. Okay, then just continue cutting out parts. And there we go, and I had a little bit left over, so I'm just going to pop that off to the side and we can use that in the outer part. Okay, so now this is going to form our centre, so we'll start that, and then you want to put 2 on either side. I'm just going to move these out of the way. There. Like so. Then you're going to put 4 on each side, sitting in the gaps between those, like so. And there we go, that's the base of our shell. Now you want to gently press this together, like so. And this is going to distort our rounds into the correct shape, because the plates on a tortoise's shell are not round. They kind of have a almost like hexagon shape to them. Not quite a hexagon shape, but they have an interesting shape, and that's just because the plates kind of all sit together perfectly, and that can be achieved by just pressing all of these pieces together like so. And then you just want to gently press that until you've got most of these ridges fixed up. You don't want to do it so that all of the ridges are gone, because we want to be able to fit our other outer shell on and fit into these ridges, but you do want to just mould it so that it is mostly smoothed out, like so. Okay, then put that to the side, and I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to cut it to the right length. Yeah. And I'm just going to reduce this a little bit because it's a little bit wide for my liking. Needs to be thinner. Okay, then trim off those ends. And then cut out as many pieces as you can. There we go. Then put those to the side. And then for each one, you want to try to slice it straight down the middle. Doesn't have to be perfectly down the middle, but just about down the middle. Okay. And then into a quarter. Like so. And then just place those along the side of your piece. Like so. And then we're just gently going to press them down. And you can do it like that. That's going to form one type of shell. Or another way you can do it, and these need to be a bit smaller for that, is you can just reduce this a bit more. And then you just keep it in 1/2 and put it on the side. And that's my general preferred method, but again, you can use the other method as well if you want. It's completely up to you. But this is the way that I'm going to do it. And then I'll do that the entire length of the shell. And then we can reduce it a bit, and I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see there, that's what that looks like. Okay, now all that is left to do, once you have wrapped that all the way around, is to just gently press it down using your hands. And just flip it every once in a while so that you make sure you get both ends. And this is just going to start reducing it. And I generally just start reducing it in a semi-round shape, and then I reshape it once I've got it down to the size that I want. And I generally keep it fairly large. If you reduce it down too far, you're going to end up with not enough detail. This one is a case of one that has been reduced down too large. If you want to reduce it down to this size, put in less lines. This is the size that I generally would keep it at, as well as the outer area. So this I only want to reduce down enough that I will have gotten rid of air pockets. Just going to smooth it around. And you can see how pretty that pattern is. And keep in mind also this darkens a little bit once it has been baked. Okay, and so I've reduced it down as far as I would like to reduce it. And now you just want to make sure that you point these ends just a touch so that it is in the right shape. Okay, there you go. Now I will give it a slice. This is the exciting bit. There we go. Keep in mind this is pretty soft. You usually want to leave it a little while before slicing. And that is what our tortoise shell should look like. Now of course I'm just going to mess with it a little bit more, just getting it into the correct shape. This end got blunted a little bit. There we are. That's essentially what it looks like. And if I bring the slice over, generally that's where I will do the manipulation. I will just gently bend down on these sides, which will give it a little bit of a dome. And of course you guys are the ones that asked for the turtle shell. You guys know what you want to do with it. Making little tortoise charms, making little turtle shells for earrings, that sort of thing. So I'm not going to be doing a project with this today, I'm just going to show you multiple ways to create a tortoise shell. Let me know in the comments if you would like a project, and I'll see about working on one. Okay, just moving that around. Okay, and that's generally how you would leave it. If you want, you can also bring it over something that is pointed, and you could make little bumps where the scales are each supposed to meet, like so, to create a little bit more of a realistic effect. There we go. But that's essentially how to create a realistic looking tortoise shell. So now we're going to move on to the more whimsical one that you can basically do in any colour. The one that I did here was using Kato blue and Kato purple along with Kato black and white. Today I'm going to be doing one with Kato blue and Kato green, but you can use any colour you want. So we'll do that one next. Okay, so I've let this cane rest for a while, and I decided let's make ourselves a little tortoise shell so that I can sand it and show you how this will look once it is baked. So you're going to let it rest, of course, and then we want to take a nice slice out of that. And that time I missed the corner there. It can be a little difficult taking a slice out of this. Let me use a stiffer blade. Okay, there we go. And then what I like to do to even it out, because a lot of the time it doesn't actually come out as even as you would like, is tap it down to your work surface and then shave it almost like you would a makume garne. And this will help you even it out so that it is basically the same thickness the whole way through. There we go. Okay. Then I'm going to take some scrap pieces, like this one, it didn't work out as well as I would like. So I'm just going to take that and I'm just going to squish that up into a ball, and it's going to help me dome this nicely so that we can make a nice domed tortoise shell. There we go. And then I'm just going to press that down. And I don't want it to be too domed. Just want to see if that's going to... Yes, that's going to achieve what I need. Okay. Now I'm just going to shape this into the right shape. And then we will put our shell piece over the top. Now these sorts of canes, they can be a little difficult to slice by hand. You can slice them by hand, of course, but generally with those ones I would recommend, if you're making a lot of them anyway, I would recommend getting something like the Lucy Clay slicer. It just makes slicing them a lot easier. Okay, I'll just shape this roughly into the right shape. Okay, and place that over the top, and this will create our dome. And then press along these edges like so. Keep in mind we're going to be doing a fair amount of sanding. You can use your blade to tuck in areas that are bowing out. And just continue. Press that down, and then you can use your blade to gently round it and get it into the right shape. I'm not slicing, I'm just pressing with the blade. And I might check from the back how it looks and just tuck in from the back as well. So, okay, there we are. Then just shape that into the right shape. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Then I'm just going to take a small piece of paper and I'm just going to use it to burnish along these edges to get rid of things like fingerprints. And this is just going to tidy it. And I'm not pressing too hard, I'm just gently maneuvering it. Okay, and I'll continue pressing until I'm happy with how it looks. There we go. Now I'm just going to bring over a piercing tool. Just gently press along these edges so that I create that little dip. There we go. Now we'll just pick that straight up, like so, nice and easy. And we will put this on a piece of paper because I want to, when we finish our little whimsical cane, I also want to make a little pendant out of it to show you what it looks like, and then I'll put them in the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and you can see what they look like when they are done. And they look quite nice. I want to give it a nice sand to see how it will look. Okay, so the last thing with this cane we want to do is we want to turn it now into a faux wood grain. So I'm only going to be using these bits. You can use these little bits and pieces off to the end, these bits and pieces here as well, but I'll just start off by using these. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop it in half, and you can see what it looks like there. And actually, you know, one I'll save for a Natasha bead. Let's see how that looks, because I'm curious. Take any of these pieces that need their lines exposed, like so, and just trim them in half. Okay, there. Then we'll put that all together, one big piece. Okay, then just for a good measure, chop it up a little bit more. Okay, and then squish that together, and that's what we're going to use to create our wood grain effect. You want it all in one solid ball. Press that together. And these are just the right colours for a wood grain, so why not use them to create one? Okay, and just make sure that this is well pressed together, that there's no air bubbles, otherwise that causes trouble later. Okay. Then start twisting and rolling, and twisting and rolling. And just continue doing that, and as you roll, you're going to get a fine marble. Just twist like so. Okay. I'll just chop off these ends to save myself a little bit of time. There we go, that's what you're looking for. Then press down on it. Like so. There you can see what it's going to look like from that side. Okay. Then using a roller, start to flatten that out. Like so. And this I might actually use as a backing for my turtle shell that I made a moment ago. So we'll make a nice backing. And just continue rolling like so until you've got it nice and flat and good to go in the pasta machine. Okay, and I tend to trim off these ends because they get a little bit messy. Okay, then I'll roll that through the pasta machine on my thickest setting. And there we go, you've got something that looks very similar to what you would use as a wood grain. So I'll put that to the side, and I'll just bring over our other piece over here, and I'm just going to press that all together, and we'll just see what sort of a Natasha bead comes out of it, because sometimes you get something quite nice. There we go. Then just start rolling like so, twisting. I'm just going to kind of squish that back together at random. There we go. Bundle that into a ball. Roll that up into a nice sphere. And then just roll that out. And then just use your roller to gently press it into a rectangle shape. Okay. And I tend to trim off the ends because they generally cause a bit more issues than they're worth. And find the middle ground and cut. And that time it didn't really come out all that nicely. It's a little bit too busy for my liking. That's fine. Sometimes it's not going to turn out well. And that's fine, but it's always nice to check. You can always then just use that again in the wood grain. Anyway, that's just generally what I tend to do with the leftovers. So now let's move on to conditioning our colours for our whimsical turtle cane. Okay, so for what we're going to be doing next, you're going to need 2 triangles of white, 1 triangle of blue, and 1 triangle of green. At least to start with, that is. Okay, and we're just going to put them together. 1 white one in the middle, like so. The green one on that end, and we want a bit of white in the middle, obviously. Then we're going to cut this one in half, and you're just going to place them like so. Now this is probably going to be a bit too wide to put through your pasta machine, so what I like to do in that case is first I will take a roller and just roll this together so that it is stuck together. So just be quite vigorous with that. Okay. Then lift that up. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start from one side and you're gently going to push. Start from that side and just hold it with this hand and push in. And that will just condense the clay. And I'll just do that a few times until it starts being small enough for my pasta machine. And that is generally how I manage to fit fairly large blends like this into a pasta machine. Of course you could use Skinner blend triangles, but then I generally don't end up with enough clay, at least for a cane that's going to be this big. But you can look into using Skinner blend triangles as well, because that will make it quite a bit easier as well. Okay, and that will fit into my pasta machine. So now I'm just going to make a Skinner blend with that, and then we can move on to the next step. Okay, and so here is now that I have finished. And I trimmed the sides just to neaten it up because they come out all craggly like this. Now what we want to do is you want to take this and just fold over the side. And then continue doing this up the length, because we want to be creating a Skinner blend bullseye, so this blend needs to be lengthened. Okay. Then using a roller, just begin rolling this out so that it will be thin enough to go through a pasta machine. Like so. Okay, and I'll take that on my thicker setting and roll it back. Like so. Then taking it down to about 1/2 millimeter thick. There we go, you should end up with something that looks somewhat like this. Okay. Now I'm going to start from the blue end. Okay. And I'm just going to grab a bit of white. And I'm just going to make a small plug with that. So I'm just rolling that into a ball quickly. And then into a sausage like so. And then just start rolling this up around it, and I need to actually make sure that plug is the right length. And just continue rolling the entire way up until you reach the end of your blend. Okay, and at this point just gently give it a squeeze, and you can see this end needs to be just squished down a bit. Okay, and then I'm just going to trim up this end here. There we are. Because that was quite a deep hole. Right, then you're going to have a piece of black, and we're going to use this to wrap around our cane. I'm just going to roll that to 1 millimeter thick. Just wrap that around, trim, there we are. Now I'm just going to press around the edges and then just trim away the excess. Like so. Pretty easy. Then just want to reduce this, and we're basically going to repeat the same thing that we did with the previous cane. We're going to reduce this down so that we can cut it into a 2/3 of the cane piece and a 1/3 of the cane piece. And then we're going to cut out 13 pieces from the 2/3, and then we're going to cut out the rest into the right length. And I'll show you that, but I'm not going to be doing it as in detail as the previous cane, just because I've already shown it and I don't want to waste your time. So just reduce this down, it shouldn't take too long, and then I'll show you how we're going to make our cane. Okay, so again, you're just going to put them together like before. You're going to put the large one in the middle, then 2 on the outside of that, and then 4 on either side. It's a very easy effect. There we go. And then again, as you know, press that into your shell shape. And then we will add the rings around the outside, like before. Okay, and then you can put those little shell bits around the edge, like so, to create the outer shell. And then again, just like before, you'll press this all together and start reducing. And you can see it doesn't really look like a real turtle shell, but it has that really nice, bright, whimsical feel to it. So depending on what project you're looking at, if you want to create a realistic turtle shell, go with the technique that I showed you before. Again, you can change up the colors a little bit. You can, just so long as you don't make them too bright, you can make it a green shell, a slightly blue shell, you can make it a little bit more red, a little bit more grey. Change up the colors as you want, and you will end up with a somewhat realistic looking shell, so long as you keep the colors somewhat muted. If you're looking for something a little bit more whimsical and bright, go with this technique with some bright unmixed colors, and you'll end up with something that looks like this, which is a completely different look, but at the same time pretty. Okay, so I'm just going to reduce this a little bit, and then I'll show you what it looks like once I have molded it into the same shape that I have made this one into. Okay, so here are our 3 canes. I showed you how to do these 2. You can create this one the exact same way I've done this one. You can reduce these down, you can shape it to any way you want, and then I've gone and taken those and I have made them into little tortoise shells. So now these are going to go in the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and when they come out I'm going to give them a really nice sand. I'll show you how to do that, and then we're going to give them a varnish, and you'll be able to see how nice they look once they are baked. Okay, and here they are out of the oven. So you can see what they look like. Now I'm not going to tend to the backs. You could make a pendant on its own, and I might decide whether or not I want to tint to the backs after sanding them. But if you wanted to make a charm and you wanted to put the little turtle head and turtle flippers out, then you would not finish off the back. You would then make the flippers, attach the head flippers, and then bake that, and then you would attach the back. But if you want to keep it as just a normal tortoise shell, then you would apply the back. And I might apply the back now, actually, because I'm not going to be making little tortoise heads or anything fancy like that. So I'm going to take that wood grain that we had earlier, I'm going to run that out to 1 millimeter thick, like so. Okay, and I'm just going to decide on a nice spot. And we're also going to need some liquid clay. Just take that liquid clay. I'm using Sculpey liquid clay here. And sometimes I've used this quite a bit, so it sometimes takes a while for it to come out. There we go. Just put a bit down, and then just make sure to smooth it into those crevices. Because that's where you want it for the most part, is to fill in any gaps you have. Just make sure to fill those in. There we go. Then what I'll do is I'll just gently wipe across the surface to get rid of excess, because we don't need excess. And any that get on the front I can just smooth off. There we go. Yep. Then I'll bring over this. Now just position that on. Squish it on top. And then I'm just roughly going to trim that out. Yeah. Okay. And then just press that on thoroughly because you want it to stick. And I'm pressing it right up against these edges, and then I will trim it. Just continue pressing it, and eventually it will start to separate. There we go. And I'm going to repeat this with the others, except that I'm going to use a black backing for the other ones. Okay, then just smear off the remaining bits. And keep in mind we're going to sand this later. There we go. Okay, and then the last thing to do is going to be to take a piercing tool. And this is quite important because we have these little ridges here, and we just want to clean that up, make sure that we don't have clay or liquid clay sitting in these grooves. Because that would be quite problematic and we would not be able to fix that very easily. So just use a piercing tool to gently scrape out those grooves. You shouldn't end up with a lot of clay in them, but you might have a little bit that just needs a little bit of cleaning up. Like so. There we go. Okay, then just gently smooth your back. And then you will do that with the others, and then you will bake that for about half an hour at pretty much recommended temperature, and then after that we can start sanding and we can basically finish off our pendants. Okay, so these are finished baking and I've just let them cool off in some water, and so I've textured the back of all three. Now we're ready to start sanding. So we'll put these to the side and we'll start with this one. And we're going to start with a 360 grit sandpaper. And it's quite a coarse grit, and so it's going to remove all sorts of imperfections. And then you'll move up from a 360 to a 400, then to a 600, then an 800, and then finally a 1200. And then from there we're going to use some polishing papers to just give it a finer polish. And then we'll either use some UV resin or we will use a buffing wheel to finish it off. And I'll repeat with all three. Okay, and they've been sanded. And now I have decided to put resin on them, so I'm not going to sand them any higher because it's not really necessary. You can see how this one has gone quite a bit darker than the cane before. So hopefully you can see there what a difference it is. And that's simply the microparticles moving around once we've sanded it. So that is quite normal. So just keep that in mind when you are making your cane, that it should be a little bit lighter than what you actually want it to be. Okay, and now we're just going to place these on here. And I'm just going to grab some Tic Tac or blue tack. Or you can even use a piece of clay. However, just keep in mind that clay will stick to the backs and won't come off very cleanly. Just going to pop this on here, and that's just going to elevate it a little bit and will make it easier for our resin because it won't drip onto the sides. Just like so. Very easy, quite straightforward. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to be using this resin today. So I'm just going to put a little bit on here. We'll start with this one. And you can see there how it's improving the colour already. And then just gently brush it over the surface until you have a nice clean coat, and repeat with all of them. Okay, so I put those in the UV light for about 20 minutes just to make sure they're cured properly, and now they're ready to come out. So here we are. And we can easily take that off the back without any consequence. And here are our shells. So you can do anything you want with these now. You can turn them in, you could turn this one, you could make another one and you could turn it into a earring pair. Or you could turn these all into pendants, you could turn them into fridge magnets. There's lots of things that you could do. Now I just want to show the canes alongside them, just to show you what they look like once they are finished. Let me just bring this down a bit so you can see properly. And there we are. So it's a very easy project. Just about anyone can do it, so play around with it. It's really fun to do. If you're having trouble with skinner blades, you could even just make bullseyes, and you could do this technique very easy. So long as you just have a round cane with a black outline in the pattern that I showed you, you will come out with a tortoise shell looking effect. But for a realistic effect, I'd go with the colour recipes, and I would go with this one, as this one is one that was modelled after a real photo that I was looking at. So this is the one that is going to come across as the most realistic. However, feel free to play around with the colours and go with a more whimsical, playful effect. So I hope that you enjoyed that tutorial. Let me know in the comments below what you thought, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.